Hi, this is Michael King. In this video, we're going to look at how to use Excel to solve some time value of money problems. So let's just recap. Time value money is the idea that a dollar today is worth more than a dollar in the future because of your ability to invest it and earn interest. So I will recommend that when working on time value of money problems, you may want to draw a timeline in order to get the timing of cash flows correct, both the present value and the future value, as well as any interim payments. So let's take a look at this example. Here you have $100 invested today, which is year 0, for 4 years. You can solve this using a calculator, but I'm going to show you how to do it in Excel using both functions. So here we are in an Excel. As you can see, I've got it maximized by clicking on the box in the top right. I've got an Excel spreadsheet open, or what's called a worksheet, because it's only one of several. You can see that I've labeled it here, example. To label anything, you simply right click on it and you can type in the box. You move around by either using your cursor or by pointing and clicking with your arrow. You can write either text or numbers or formulas in the box. Here you can see I've got what is the future value of $100 invested at 5% for 4 years. If I wanted to, as with anything in Excel, there are several ways to make changes. So if I wanted to format this, I could simply click on bold, I could make it larger, or I could also use some keyboard shortcuts which you may want to use, such as Control B to turn off bold, Control B to turn on bold, Control I, etc. Okay. Now Excel will allow you to type anything in a cell. Here you can see we're in column B, row 2. So I'm going to start off by putting the inputs to this present value, future value calculation. So I'm going to write interest rate, and you may recall that in the textbook by Booth Cleary and Rakita, it's K. Okay. As you can see, it goes over one cell. I can drag, point, click, and drag to make the cell larger. Okay. And the interest rate is going to be 5%. Now I can type 5% or I can type 0.05, the number. If I had a number here, I would format it as a number with 2 decimal points. Okay. If I wanted to make it 10%, I would be 0.1. If I wanted to be 5%, 0.05. I like to format things so I know what they are. And you can see here I'm going to put it in with 1 decimal point. Number of periods. Well, we often use number of periods, or N, and you can see here that it's going to be the number 4. The payment, well, in this formula you have to decide if there's going to be a payment after the original investment. Okay? This is something you're going to learn about the Excel formulas that are built in. I'm going to leave it blank for the moment because I'll show you what we put in later. The present value of our investment is going to be $100. Now there's going to be another part to the formula in Excel, which is going to be something called type, which I'll explain in a moment. And what we want to calculate is we want to calculate the future value. Okay? Now to calculate the future value, you can put your cursor over a blank cell and you can click on the FX, which stands for function. If you do that, it will give you all the functions that are available or installed in your version of Excel. And you can see here that it may be the most recently used ones. You can look for all financial functions. You could look for mathematical, statistical. There is nothing called time value money. It actually exists under financial. Okay? But what we can do is we can clear this box and we can type future value and hit go, and here you go, it brings it up. FV. Now to insert this, we're going to double click on it And as you can see, a box opens up showing you the different functions or arguments that are required for this built-in formula. Now you may be wondering before putting this in, what is rate, number of periods, payment, etc. You can click on Help on this function and it will pull up a description from the user guide for Excel for this specific future value function. Okay, it tells you it's one of the financial functions, the future value of a series of payments. Okay, and the syntax is going to be, here you go, the different inputs. Rate is the required interest rate per period. Notice that it's per period, not per year. And N per is the total number of payment periods. Notice that this formula is going to be used for an annuity. We've talked about the annuity formula in a previous class. Payment is required. It's the payment that's going to be made each period, and it cannot change over the life of the annuity. Okay, over here, this problem says we're investing $100 today. What will it be worth at the end of 4 years? There are not going to be any interim payments, so we're going to end up putting 0 in here. Notice that I can go over here. Oops. Hit cancel. I'm going to put 0 in here. Okay. Go back. Click on. I can either click on function to pull it up again, or I can hit equal sign and start typing. And you notice that it starts to come up, and then I can double click on it here. Now here you can see that it's just showing me the summary of what the different inputs are. And I want to go back and pull up that help screen again. Okay. So we were down at payment, present value, and type. Type is optional. Excel will assume the type to be 0, which means when the payments are due. 0 means the payments come at the end of the period. 1 means that the payments come at the beginning of the period. The only time that we don't use 0 is when we're looking at a special type of annuity called an annuity due. We're going to be looking at an ordinary annuity, so we're going to be using 0. Now, you may wonder how to input numbers. So down below in the description, it'll give you an example. So you can see here that we could put the interest rate in as a decimal, or we can format it. The number of payments is in whole numbers. The amount of the payment here is going to be a negative number, which means an outflow. The present value is also going to be a negative number because it's an amount that you give out, and a positive number is the amount that you're going to receive in the future. Okay? And there are several examples here that you can try putting into Excel. Okay? So let me just go back. I'm going to put, you see I've got my formula equals future value open brackets. It's asking me for the rate. So I'm going to select the cell with the interest rate, C2. Notice that there's a big blue box around it and it shows up as C2, column C, row 2. I hit a comma to move to the next input, and you can see its number of periods. I'm going to simply click on the next one. Now it shows it in a different color, C3. Hit a comma again. Now it's asking me for the payment. You see what I've done? I've set up my Excel knowing what the formula is so that each of the inputs is below the next one. This is kind of an advanced way to set this up so that you can quickly create formulas, use the function, and you can verify the inputs. C4, I hit comma again. It's asking me for the present value. I've got 100. In a moment I'm going to go back and I'm going to change that to minus 100, comma, and then it's asking me for type. Now it's prompting me with a drop down here to enter the type. I'm going to click in the box here, which is empty, and then hit close brackets and see what happens. So it's assuming a type. So what I'm going to do is hit 0. And notice that the number, the future value, is calculated as a negative number. Okay? That's because our present value is positive. Notice what happens if I put a minus sign or a negative in front of present value. We get the future value that flips. Okay? So what this is saying is that $100 invested today at 5% for 4 periods with no interim payments, where all the cash flows occur at the end of the period, is going to be worth $121.55. Here you can see the result here where I've built a table and I've shown you step by step the different calculations. Okay. Now, in another class, I'm going to talk about using this formula. This is the future value, present value formula, where I've got the future value here and the present value on the right-hand side. Here I've simply reversed it. So you may recall that the factor is the present value interest factor is 1 plus k to the n. And the future value, that's the future value interest factor. The present value interest factor is 1 over 1 plus k to the n. So in this problem, I'm going to calculate what the present value, the future value factor is going to be. I'm going to type the future value interest factor. I could have typed it out in long future value interest factor. As you can see, it doesn't show it completely in the cell. I can either make the cell bigger by dragging it, okay, or I can simply double click on the cell on the edge of the column, and it will size it for anything that's in that column all the way from the top to the bottom. That can be useful. Or a third option is simply to take the cell and wrap the text, which is an option here. And you can see that it will wrap the text. Okay. If you ever do anything and you want to undo, you click on the undo button here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type future value interest factor, and then I'm going to put future value here. Okay, and notice that it tried to prompt me with what I was going to put in the next cell. Okay, so I'm going to format the cells to the right here. I'm going to select the cells, and then I hit, what I did there was I selected the cells and I either right click copy. Now over here I'm going to put where I want the I'm going to copy the formatting actually. Well, let me copy all the numbers. So to paste, I would hit paste, and notice that there are several options here. We want the one on paste right here. Okay. Okay, now if I ever want to empty a cell, I can just hover over it and hit spacebar and then enter. Okay, spacebar enter, spacebar enter. Okay. What I want to do here is I want to set up a. I'm gonna delete what's in this cell. I want to set up my future value factor using the formula. I'm going to basically copy this formula, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 1 plus k over n. Okay? So to enter a formula into a cell, it's similar to starting a function. You hit equals, and I'm going to start typing my formula. I'm going to do open brackets, 1 plus, and then I want my interest rate k, so I'm going to select my interest rate k. Notice that it's got a blue box. It highlights it as cell C2, column C, row 2. Close brackets. And now I want to do it raised to the exponent of the number of periods. Now you have to learn some of this, but it's an upper caret, which is this, is the exponent. And now I want to select, for the number of periods, I'm going to select 4. And you notice that it comes in as C3. Now when I'm done, I just hit enter. Okay. Here you see this is the future value factor for 5% compounded annually for 4 years, or 5% compounded each period for 4 periods. Notice that it automatically gave me 5 decimal points. I can change that by either clicking on these number formatting functions up here. I could reduce the number of comma, decrease the number of decimals, or I could have, using this down arrow, I could get a full dialog box. Now to get the future value of this $100 invested at the start, I'm simply going to take the present value multiplied by 1 plus k over n, which is the future value interest factor. So I'm going to hit equals. I'm going to use another formula. I'm going to have cell E5, and I'm going to use multiply. Multiply in Excel is star, and then I'm going to select cell E6. This is going to multiply E5 times E6. And look, I got a negative number. Why is that? Well, I'm no longer using a function, an Excel function. I'm just doing simple math. So if I want to get a number that's positive, when doing simple math, you simply have a positive times a positive gives you a positive. I'm going to make this 100. Okay. So the only reason that this number over here has to be negative is because we're using a function which is built in with Excel, and it requires the one of the cash flows to be negative, either the present value or the future value, for the function to work. Okay, so that's it. That's enough for one class, just so you can see how to use Excel for calculating present value and future value.